Feminism is not about rebellion. We're not talking about this.
Hold on, okay. We may not be talking about the same thing.
We are
but I
very
want
far
to
from
hold
the
on.
same.
A brother offends me and takes my property, and I should fold my hand and say I forgive him and lose that property. Do you know how many years it took me to acquire the property?
Okay.
Yeah.
I cannot go and make money now, and the next thing I want to do in my head
lavish
is to go and party,
And that's what
is
I'm
to go
trying
and
to
lavish it,
explain.
knowing that the economy is not even
That's
good
what I'm trying
enough.
to explain.
Hello viewers, I am delighted to welcome you to this week's edition of Crossfire, reaching you from the Advent Cable Network Nigeria Television, ACNNTV. I am Olusegun Akinola. Right here on Crossfire, we treat controversial topics on diverse issues surrounding the family, church, and the society. It's like a friendly match where we just warm up by raising the issues. The ball is eventually left in your courts to decide. Our focus today is on the family. Choosing a future career. Should parents influence the career choices for their children? You know, choosing a career path or business is very critical and crucial, a very crucial decision for many youths. They struggle to determine whether the choice they make is going to hurt or help their future. Additionally, parents tend to intervene with the decision process and do whatever it takes for their child to take the ideal career path. With both parents and the child trying to choose one future, who should be the one to make the final decision? With me in the studio to discuss this wonderful topic are two parents who are here to enlighten us on what they think is best. They are Mrs. Amaka Ogojiefo, who will be speaking against parental influence, and Mr. Ayo Ikpimoye, who will be supporting parental influence. You're welcome, ma.
Thank you.
You're welcome,
Thank you
sir.
so much.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Well, I think let's get right into the discussion. Let me begin with you, Mrs. Amaka. Why do you think parents should not be involved in this decision-making process for children or for youths?
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
And this is a topic I'm very passionate about. To say that parents will not be involved would actually be ridiculous, because parents are involved in every aspect of their children's lives. But I think what we probably need to do is to define our terms properly. Because what sounds like influence to one person sounds like you must do it my way to another person. And that is the source of my concern. Because as parents, we want our children to do well. We want to guide them right. We want to see that they have a bright future and all of that. But at what point do we allow these children to come into the picture in terms of decision making?
Of course.
I think that's the contention here.
Okay. So for you, at what point do you think a parent should actually back off? Because you're saying they should not even be involved, or how involved should they be?
You know, so I was thinking about this topic. It strikes me that if as a parent, by the time your child is in SS2, SS3, you have not raised that child to a point where they have a notion where they're going in life, or where you have not sat down with them and discussed this matter. And it's only at the point where you get the WAEC form and the JAM form that you start say, no, you can't go there. You can't go there. I'm your parent. You know. So if we have done our foundational work well, by the time a child is getting to a certain age, they have a fair idea of their strengths and their weaknesses, their abilities and what they cannot do. So we should be able to trust them to a certain extent to make a decision about what will I be. That's the way I see it.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes,
otherwise, we're basically failed.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ayo, what's your own point of view on this? She's saying there's a certain level as a parent, you should not even be involved at all. So you on the other side of the coin, how involved do you think a parent should be?
One of the things, let me start by thanking you for having me here.
Thank you, sir.
And thanks to my colleague. One of the things that we have seen is that parents are involved in the lives of their children from cradle to grave.
Of course.
When my dad passed on at the age of 94, up till he left, he was still involved in my life. So talk less of when I was a child in school I think that the parents has a very significant role to play. And now when we analyze what are the roles and responsibilities of parents in the lives of their children, to provide, you provide resources, you provide a home, you provide clothing, to protect against dangers, both physical, psychological, and emotional. You give guidance, but part of that responsibility is also to give directions. In this day and age, that's one thing that we try to run away from. But parents do give directions. And those directions also would include the choice of a career. Now, when we say a child should choose by themselves, the point is that do the children or even the young adults in SS2, SS3, do they know enough to be able to make informed choices? You find out that when we leave children to make choices by themselves, invariably they are taking guidance from their peers and friends who otherwise could be even more ignorant, because that's what we left them to. So I think that parents should play that central role, and I think that in a lot of cases the parent knows the child more than the child knows themselves.
Of course, of course. Well, I don't know, some may differ on that point, that will a parent know a child more than he knows himself, because the child is developing day by day and they're getting to discover new things which may completely differ from what the parent's idea of who the child is, because children always make that complaint that you don't know me, you know, I'm changing, and they are getting to know new things, they're getting to discover new things, they're watching TV, they are seeing what their peers are doing. So would you actually say that a child will know, I mean a parent will know a child more than the child knows himself?
Well, the child may have internet, may have flat screen television and all that, but in the real fundamental sense of knowledge of who that child is, I will wager you when we grow older, we now find out that our daddies and mommies know much more about us than we. So, but when you are experiencing the world for the first time, you think you know everything there is to know, until you know that you don't know.
Of course. Yes, Mommy, I'm sure you want to differ on that, but as you respond to that, let me also ask this question. Now, parents, of course, have the wisdom and experience, just like you said, that the youths lack. So is that not an advantage to actually help the child to make the right decisions? You know, can't the parents actually step in that say, well, I know what I'm saying, it's better you go for this course or go for this career rather than this other career?
I still insist that, you know, part of my concern with our parenting is that actually most parents don't know their children. Because of the way that we live nowadays in our present world, many parents are so busy and so involved with 1,001 things that they never sit down to have significant conversations with their children. They think they know their children, especially when your children are beginning to approach adolescence and adulthood. They think they know, it's not junior. But like you said, junior has grown. And we have to make allowance for that. So I think our duty as parents is to make sure we bring our children to a point where they begin to take decisions. And I also want to say as we go on that every child is uniquely shaped. I believe this. I believe that every child is shaped by God for something. That's why we begin to talk about talents and giftings and strengths. And many children, some children discover who they are very early. I found out who I was very early. Unfortunately for me, that is why I'm passionate about this topic. Unfortunately for me, when I brought it up, my dad said no. That forms one of my life regrets, lifetime regrets. But because, you know, this is the person who pays your school fees, this is your father, this is the patriarch of the family, and he knows more than you do, and if at the end of the day you don't agree, well, how can you disagree with your father? People don't disagree with their fathers in those days. You know? Like now. So, but every now and then I'll ask myself, what would your life have been like if you pursued your God shape? And I believe my life would have been radically different. And so every time I see parents interfering with children to the point of putting down their feet and saying, no, you're going to be a doctor. After all, you're good in sciences. You can't tell me this. I become deeply concerned because I've walked that road. And it is not a road you want to walk. There are several people today that every Monday morning they develop headache tummy ache, irritable bowel syndrome,
Yes, yes.
everything you can think of. Why? They can't stand the job that they trained for.
Yeah.
But there was nothing they could do about it because it wasn't their choice.
Okay. Yes, sir. Maybe you want to respond to that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir.
My experiences also are just directly opposite hers.
Oh, okay.
When I was 13 years old, I made a decision that I was going to study economics. After that, I would do accountancy because I saw someone who did exactly that. And I just followed.
Okay.
And I loved economics. And I loved accountancy. But my dad asked me what I want to do, and I told him. But often he would tell me, I wish you should do this rather than accounting. But I didn't listen.
Okay.
Then later I found out that everything my dad told me to do or would have wanted me to do would have been most ideal for me.
you.
So when he passed on and I wrote that, the areas I regret most in life were the areas I did not listen to my dad.
Different strokes.
Different strokes.
So I wrote it actually there. Daddy, when you read this,
Yes, sir.
up there,
Yes, sir.
I wish I listened to you. Because I found out that my dad actually paid attention to us. He interacted with each of his children uniquely. And when me and my siblings talk now, we find out we have different stories, different colorations about a man, because he dealt with us as we were.
Uniquely.
So coming from that, I saw that if my dad had did a little more in saying, son, I
Make
think,
sure you do this.
yeah, I will be happier. Because I did economics and I did accounting, and I'm not doing anything with it today. So then children, again, I also say that a lot of the children, or even young people, who chose to do whatever they choose to. Sometimes they also come and say, no, I wished I had done something different. So it cuts both ways. But that's where parents should come in. Now, if parents are not getting involved, then they should get involved. If parents are not paying attention to their children, we need to plead with them by the mercy of God that they should. Because that's what parents are for.
Yes, yes.
You know the antecedents, you know the genes that are running this. That's one, when I was a youth missionary, we were working with one young man who was problematic. So we had to go and see the dad. The dad said, the decisions I'm making for him is to protect him from himself. Because every day I see myself in him.
You want to
He's
change
doing what I did and he's making the same mistakes I did. So when I say this, it's not just because I can see where he's heading, because he's walking my footsteps. So I need to guide him contrary to where he wants to go.
Now, the way some people will interpret that, which goes in line with your second question, now some parents tend to relive their past failed aspirations in their children. You know, so in a way they're trying to force them to, you know, move away from a certain path which they feel they have walked that path before and they have failed. And so they feel that if a child goes in that same path, they would also fail. So don't you think that this will actually inhibit the child from his own self-discovery?
Well, yes, that's a possibility. But what I'm talking about is a parent who actually has taken time to know, because that's what parents should. And one of the most significant responsibilities that I think the Lord has given to anyone is to be a parent.
Yes, yes.
Because you are involved in shaping the temporal and eternal life of another human being. Yeah. So I think that even when parents see their failures being replicated in their children, I think they should step in. But it is the manner of stepping in that now makes the difference. If you back an order at a child without having that child understand what you are saying, the natural tendency is to rebel.
Of course.
But when you let the child understand, then the tendency is that they will more likely agree with you, because then they will reason along.
Okay. I wonder if our Nigerian youth are like that. They will actually just listen to parents, or they're just very stubborn and aggressive. With this day and age where you see, you know, the youth can run, the youth want to be president, they want to be this, they want to be that. Everyone wants to pave their own path. Well,
sorry,
yes,
yes.
Okay.
I think I also want to bring out something at this point. There is this unfortunate thing that some parents do. They want to live vicariously through their children. You know, there are some parents who had a passion for something, but they couldn't accomplish it for a particular career path. Maybe the person wanted to be a medical doctor, a nurse, or a lawyer or something, and they didn't make the cut. So they wait. They say until my child comes. So when the child is born, they don't care what that child is. They don't care that child's strength, that child's ability. It doesn't make any sense to them. They say, you'll be a doctor. Because I always dreamed of being a doctor, but I couldn't make it. So I made up my mind, even before I married, that my first child is going to be a medical doctor. And the child is saying, but Dad, I don't have the capacity. I don't have the interest. I can't even stand the side of blood. They say, don't worry, you will stand the side. As far as I'm concerned,
exactly.
You will stand the side and you will be a doctor. And you find that what happens to some of those children is because, because this is my parent. This is the person who is responsible for me, pays my school fees, like I said, and everything. They'll go ahead and do it, but they never practice.
That's true.
Actually, the person who made this dress I'm wearing is a lawyer.
Wow. Okay.
She holds down a job in a government office as a lawyer, but she has no passion for it. Not really.
Wow.
Her passion is dressmaking. She said she knew from the age of 12 that no matter what she did in school, she'll be a dressmaker.
Interesting.
In fact, I had to call her at some point and said, my sister, why don't you leave this other thing and follow your God shape? Because if you focus your entire energy on this thing, I believe you'll excel.
Of course.
I believe you will go places that you can't even begin to believe. But, that weight of expectation, parental expectation, never leaves some of us. You keep struggling in a dimension where you don't belong for the rest of your life. Miserable, like I said, sick.
Of course.
Sick and tired of life even. And you don't know what else to do.
That's true.
At the back of your head is Daddy saying...
Daddy is saying, always telling you, this is what they have groomed you to be. Yes. So I think the ball still falls back on the parents understanding each child and allowing them to grow into that shape that they actually they feel it's best. Now, for you, man, they say experience, of course, is the best teacher. And just like Mr. Ayo was saying, that some parents have gone through a certain path, and they see their child going through that same path, they know this one is a no-go area. Now, youth tend to be confused and may not understand their strengths and weaknesses until they go through some of these experiences. Now, would you say that you prefer a child to go through those experiences, test some of these ups and downs in their life before they now discover their true gifts and talents? Or do you say, no, I've gone through this part before, don't do it? Or you allow the child to actually go through it, experience some things, and then discover who they truly are?
I was saying something, part of what we are dragging, as we call it in Nigeria, is a first degree. And a first degree is just like an entrance. And so you find out that many people at the end of the day, their first degree, what it did, it was educated and exposed them.
Of course.
That's not what, like you said, it's not what they necessarily end up doing. So I think the way some parents frustrate their children is unnecessary. Let the child go in there. The child says, Dad, I'm not good at sciences. I'm not good at art. This is what I feel I can do. I said, okay, you know what? Let's go ahead with what you want to do. Because you know that at the end of the day, life may not take him in that direction. It may take him somewhere else. Some of us parents are very concerned about, maybe I'm preempting you now. Some of us parents are very concerned about, if I let this child do this thing, this is not viable. It's not viable. Exactly. Nigeria is not a place where you can do gardening as a course. Because hunger will kill you here. And I'm not going to let my child die of hunger. But what we don't see is the future. When a parent begins to arrogate to himself powers that belong only to the divine, that too is a problem. Because you don't know whether your child is going to live in this country. You don't know what God is forming that child for. You could be fighting and struggling and say, no, this thing is not viable in Nigeria, but it's viable in Australia. And that's where your child is going. But as you're sitting down now, you don't know. And sometimes after all the fight, as parents, okay, Dora Akunyele's husband was saying something the other day on a video. He said that one of his children, I think her name is Njideka. There's also some children who are ambidextrous, let me put it that way, academically. They can do this, they can do this, they can do that. And it becomes a little bit confusing for them and the parents too. So this child is good in arts and sciences. And her father said, you'll be a doctor. And the girl said, I don't want to be a doctor. I said, no, you will be a doctor. He already had how many doctors at that point? Say, one more. You'll be a doctor. So she kept begging, but he wouldn't listen. So he said one day, Dora, late Dora, knelt down and said, Dad, let this girl go. Let this girl pursue her dream. And what was her dream? To be an artist. One of her works now is about $3.4 million.
Wow.
One. I don't know the kind of treatment she would have treated. She would have treated
somebody
patients to make 3.54 million clear, just like that. So sometimes let's cut these children some slack. We're raising human beings. We're not raising puppets or raising animals. We're raising human beings. Cut them some slack.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, before Mr. Ayo reacts to that, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
What shall we render to God Almighty? The fruits of our lips are the music that brings down the presence of God on earth. The Encounter of Praise presents soul-lifting praises, sonorous hymns, classical and contemporary sounds that would uplift the name of God and bring down His presence for our awesome blessing. With the theme, The Fruits of Our Lips, from Hebrew 13:15, on the 12th of November 2021, at the St. Matthias House Auditorium, Apo Godo District, Abuja, by 4 p.m. West African time. Come, witness the glory of God in melodious and dynamic concert. Host, the Most Reverend MC Ndokuba, the Primate, Church of Nigeria Anglican Communion. Announcer, the Venerable Dr. Paul Dajo, the General Secretary, Church of Nigeria Anglican Communion.
Welcome back, dear viewers. Thank you for staying tuned. This still remains Crossfire, and we have been looking at a very wonderful topic, choosing a future career. Should parents influence the career choices of their children? And in the studio, we have Mrs. Amaka Ogoejiofor, who has been speaking against parental decision and influence over the children, and Mr. Ayo Ipimoye, who has been speaking for the parental influence. Just before we went on the break, Mommy had been able to explain some of our passion, that how parents should actually stay clear and allow the children to be formed, let them go through those experiences themselves. So, sir, maybe we'll come to you now. Some say, I'm sure you may not entirely agree with this, and you even mentioned it earlier, some say that children know themselves better than anyone else, even including their parents. So how can a parent help a child in their career, in the career path, without being too assertive? Because in our African culture, even Nigerian culture, many parents tend to be very assertive. This is what you want to do. You must go there. You can imagine someone saying, the parent saying you should be a doctor, and then the person says you want to be an artist, you want to be a footballer, you want to be some other things that you feel may not be viable in our Nigerian society. So how can a parent actually help a child in their career path without being too assertive?
Okay, thank you. Let's start from the last thing you said. As you were talking, something came to my mind. Adoke Amaisimaka, when he was playing for Green Eagles,
Okay.
he was a lawyer.
Okay.
He started playing when he was in the school.
School days, yeah.
And some wise parents those days, when their children began to play sports, they will insist, you play your sports, but you also do your education.
You also do education, okay.
And the parents will insist. There are quite a few of them in my high school who are very good in soccer, but their parents insisted they should go to school whilst playing their soccer.
Okay.
And this is what happens. The period for their athleticism is limited. Within 5-10 years, your legs grow old.
Yeah.
Then you now revert back to the career.
education.
And those who did not have a career path outside of sports sometimes end up on the streets begging, and then you see their stories, people raising money for them. This used to be the golden Eagles keeper and all that. So a parent should have come in, like some of these guys, their parents ensured that they had a good education, and the difference always shows. Now, I was thinking in the Bible, we are told the story of the prodigal son. But whenever I read or think about that story, I really see it as a story of the father of two boys.
Okay, yes.
One wanted to have his way, he wanted to make his career choices. The boy left home.
Yes.
I want to do my own thing.
Of course.
And the dad allowed. But we all know the story.
Yes.
Because he was giving too much of a leeway, he ended up injuring himself.
Exactly.
After he has blown the father's investment, after he has wasted a lot of years, what did he do? He came back to the same father who he rebelled against.
Yes.
So, let me say, a lot of young people who don't listen to their parents, when things go wrong, they come back home. So we might as well do the work up front. And that's why I started with what are the responsibilities of parents. Now you have to protect the child, you have to give guidance to teach, you have to provide, you have to love the child, then direct. Now if you just choose direction and you are not doing the others, then it won't fly. If you don't know who your son is, if you don't, my dad taught me how to read and write, not the one the teachers in school. I mean, I write poetry up to today because my dad taught me. He would give me books of poems to read, to cram, and then to tell him what I read.
It's really hard time in those days.
He used to buy novels.
Exactly.
My dad used to buy novels for me to read and my siblings. And he knew our different tastes. And he gave us what each of us required. And some of us did not want to read novels, he left them alone. But for those of us who were into literature, which was his
just
own
left
passion,
them alone.
Yeah, he left them alone.
I will force you. What I do watching television. Go and read your book.
But he made sure we all had the basic education.
That's true.
But beyond that, then you can fly. So I think parents should be. Now, if parents are not doing their responsibilities, that is what the church exists for us to be able to teach our fathers and daughters not to leave their children at the expense of internet and go looking for money. We go and look for money to buy data and give the data to the kids. And so many of us, who is actually parenting our kids, is the television, is internet, and the kids on the street. So if parents were to do their job, you will see the boy who stayed home with the dad, you saw how he turned out compared with the one. Now, does that mean that all of us must stay home? No.
Okay.
We will go out to go and work, but we should do that in a responsible way with a lot of parental input, guidance. Then it doesn't matter where you go, like Professor Akunyele, he will excel.
Yes, it's like you're trying to react to it.
Actually, the one that stayed home was a bad guy.
Yes,
when you look at that story, he was selfish. He was invested in nothing and no one but himself. So I will not say that the one that stayed home turned out better.
Very well,
because he had the spirit of a Pharisee. Had the spirit of a Pharisee.
But the other one,
this your son that went. How does he know? Was he there? But no feeling for his brother.
No, but the Bible did not tell us so. So we don't make this about the story.
No, it's not an assumption.
It was when
look at what he said.
Yeah, it was when the other boy came, which was a very valid question.
Your brother comes back.
Yeah, your brother.
You don't
comes
have
back.
any feeling for him.
He asked the father because, and that's why I say for me is more of a discussion about parenting. The boy said, I stayed home, I worked your farm,
I didn't get
all
a goat.
That. But you have never even given me
a goat to make
suya.
milk. So he was working for him for a goat to make milk.
So, and the father now had to explain to him for the first time that all of this is yours. That's why I say, if we read that story, for me, the story is not about the prodigal son. It's about the father.
It was two sons.
It was the,
like you said.
It was the father who should have let the older son know who he was. That's why I say, if we read that story, we see a lot of lessons about parenting. Should you wait until the boy now finally protests, until you tell him he can have a goat to eat?
So we're basically saying the same thing.
Okay.
So that's why I'm saying that a parent should give guidance, a parent should give protection, a parent should give provisions, and a parent should give direction.
Okay.
I think also for that young man, even though he stayed at home, it just seemed as if it was just a daddy's boy. He just wanted to obey everything daddy wanted to do, and deep down, maybe he didn't have real fulfillment, because seeing the brother back should have given him excitement. He said, okay, my brother is back, but instead it seemed to turn out to negative. Anyway, that one is just by the way. looking at context now, let me come back to you, Mommy. Children in our Nigerian society, of course, with the rate of unemployment that we find, people study certain things and they are not able to practice. Now, you being a parent, would you say that, would you influence your child to study courses or learn skills that will be helpful for their future, even if it goes against their passion?
You know, I said something like this in passing.
Yes,
I said
yes,
something about
yes.
it in passing. We are actually living in an evolving world, rapidly evolving world. In fact, many of us parents have become dinosaurs on this
Yes.
earth that we're
Yes.
living on. There are several things about the technological age that are strange to us, but our
course.
children have them at the tips of their
course,
fingers.
of course.
And sometimes when they tell you there's money here, because for some of us parents, it's not really about the children, it's about us. That is part of what makes me sad. I've never seen any parent that said to his child, you must become a cross-cultural minister. That's my dream for you. So I feel that it's not about the children. And we need to make it about the children. We need to be interested in the time for the children beyond now. Like I said earlier, you don't know where your children are going to end up.
Exactly.
My own children keep telling me, you think I'm going to be in this country? I would love my children to live in Nigeria.
Yeah.
But they keep telling me
You can't be in
that
this
we
country.
can't live
This
it.
environment is just not.
And several of our family members are not also here. Now, some of the things they are telling you I want to do may not be relevant here, but they will be relevant for
Somewhere
their
else.
ultimate destination. You don't know. Some of the things they are telling you from your limited knowledge of the past. In the past, it used to be engineering, medicine. What are those courses that were very law? And they call them professional courses, and that's all.
Professional courses, yes.
You know, what I wanted to do was education. I wanted to be an education major. Look at the kind of money, because for us, it always boils down to the money. What we
Of
call
course,
success.
it's
When we
always
say
money.
success, we mean
Yes,
money.
yes.
Look at the kind of money educationists are making on schools now.
No.
One child, 1 million naira. School fees, 2.5. Now, in the days when I began to talk about going into the education sector, it wasn't like that. How could my parents have foreseen that with a background in education, I could probably have put up a school by now and be raking in the millions? So when we say some of these things, let's make room
Yeah.
for the unknown.
Yes. Yes.
A child that is telling you, I want to go into something technical
Yeah.
or something craft-based, this could be his unique shape that God is going to use him, make him somebody with first name mention on the on this planet. Look at Elon Musk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is he famous for degrees?
You know, of course.
Elon Musk is not famous for degrees. He's famous for ideas. Look at people like Bill Gates. He dropped out of school. And his dropping out of school was actually because he was a genius. So if we begin to take some of these things the way some of us parents in Nigeria are taking some of these things, we will frustrate these children.
That's true.
I used to do this kind of career guide thing for a particular school. And I noticed that there was a preponderance of science students in the school. And I asked them why. I said, because in nature, there's always a balance. You're likely to find statistically that about 50 to 60% are in the art class and 50 to 40% or the remaining are in the science class. How come almost everybody here is in sciences? And I told them, I would love to meet your parents. Because I perceive that some parents are twisting their children out of shape.
Yeah.
And in fact, some of them come to me after the career talk and say, Ma, I want to meet you personally. I want to be an actor. I want to be an actress. And my parents say, over my dead body, that can never, you will be a professional. Say, what do I do? And you see that these children are developing sleepless nights very early over their career path in life.
That's true.
So-
That's true. Yes, sir. If you want to react to that.
Well,
too.
let me start from Bill Gates. Bill Gates went into computing because his
Exactly
parents,
what I'm talking about.
because his parents, particularly his mother, took him to a computer class.
Class, okay.
It was his mother. Because at that time, the mother was a part of a school board.
Okay.
So the computing that he's doing today is what the mother introduced him to
Okay.
and gave him that enabling environment to do that.
To do it.
Now, what I'm saying is, parenting is not just backing orders at people. When I say a parent should be
approachable.
A significant
Yes.
part of that determination.
Yeah.
Not just as you say, I wanted to be a doctor, I couldn't be. No, the parents should know the child. The parents should then guide the child based on. You will see that in the scriptures when a child is called of God, the person that the instructions were given to were
Is
the
the parents.
And the children who rebel against that always fall short. But it means that parents have a much stronger responsibility
That's
than
true.
even the church today is holding parents accountable to.
Of course.
So what we are having now is parents not understanding their roles. Not that parents are overdoing their roles.
Of course. Of course.
And that's on the basis on which I'm speaking.
Draw the line.
So a parent should, under appropriate godly guidance, give that guidance to the child.
Yeah.
Go, I mean, again, check the scriptures. The story of Joseph and Mary. Will Jesus have survived if not for everywhere he went until he started his ministry were where his parents took him, and he did not rebel.
Yeah. Except when he was in the temple and he didn't follow.
Yeah, at the age of 12. Yes, because yes, you are right. One of the things that,
So where daddy is going, you follow daddy.
one of the things that you also see with young people is whatever you do, there will come a point of self-discovery, a point of rebellion.
Of course.
When the boy
It's
asks,
natural.
when the boy asks them,
Of course.
you people don't know anything. Why should you not know that I must be in my father's house? But they now said he followed them home and he was obedient to them.
That's true. That's true.
So that's, to my mind, that's the biblical standard.
That's true.
Parents should be parents.
Parents, yes.
That is why we are giving that awesome responsibility. So if we are not doing that responsibility, that's what we should go and learn. Even if it means venerable calling classes and sitting parents down and mommy teaching them to be parents so that we can give guidance to our kids. We need to do that.
That's true. That's true. Well, our time is actually fast spent already. Maybe you have a final word or final advice to parents?
You know, there's a place where we agree, and that is that parents have to parent.
Of course.
But having said that, when a parent is not approachable, when a parent is draconian, when you rule by fiat, you don't want discussions. Say, don't discuss with me. I have made up my mind, and I have also told your mother that this is what it will be. So don't tell me anything otherwise. We are setting up a template for frustration, for future frustration, and that is something we must guide against. Like you said, a parent should know his child, but you should also be able to discuss the child and find out how that child is, discuss with the child and find out how he's evolving. You should also be able to ask the child periodically, what do you see yourself becoming? It will change. First he will say an astronaut, then he will say a cook, then he will say a bus driver, then he will say several things. But you're also watching the child's abilities and capacities as a parent. If you're hands-on, you are noticing the areas of strength of this child and you are beginning to guide them in that direction. There will be alternatives. By the time you come to choose a career, there will be alternatives. There could be nursing, there could be psychology, there could be medicine and different aspects of medicine. And then you can sit with the child and say, I see that your strengths lie here. How can you as a parent tell a child to go and do, what do I say now? To go and do, let's go back to our medicine again. When you see that that child is posting 20%, 35%, 15% in mathematics, that is atrocious.
You say the child is lazy.
That is atrocious. And you can see that the child is putting in maximum effort, but the efforts are not yielding anything because this is not his form, this is not his shape. So there is a need for us to actually sit up. I totally agree with you in that aspect.
That's true. Thank you very much, man. Yes, sir.
I have a daughter. I have a girl and 2 boys. Early on, I told my daughter, based on what I'm seeing in the future, I want you to study either botany or nutrition. But she said, no, I want to study pharmacy. Then she came and said, no, I'm not studying pharmacy again because I'll be working in the hospital and I'll be seeing blood. And they said we'll see dead body. I don't want to see dead body. Then she said she would do physiotherapy. Then she came back and said, no, I'm not doing physiotherapy because we'll still be going to hospitals. Then I said, okay, so that day we now sat down. Will you do nutrition? And dietetics? She said yes. She had forgotten
that you said
that you had mentioned it before.
That I mentioned it many times before. Because I said, what I'm saying in the future is we won't have factories where we'll be doing
Certain
herbal
things.
and food supplements and all.
Yeah.
Then so she went to Afebalola to study nutrition and dietetics. And today, many more people know her than me.
Wow.
She set up her own company. Well, I thought she would come and work in her own company, but she set up her own company. She's running her own business in Lagos. And many people, oh, is that your daughter? Oh, yeah. But I gave her that guidance, which is based on what
on
I
your
saw.
knowledge.
Yeah, on knowledge and all that. And she's excelling at it. So that is my job as a parent. And my, like John the Baptist said, he must increase, I must decrease. A father wants their children
to excel beyond them.
Yes. So that is my take, and that's my vision of parenting and of helping to determine what the child does. It's for the child, not for me.
Not for you. That's good. That's good. Thank you so much. I see that at least from this conclusion that we're actually on the same page. That it's about the child, about the children
not
themselves,
about the parents.
not about the parents. But thank you so much for taking time out to be here with us today. Thank you for enlightening us.
Thank you.
I pray the Lord will bless you as parents, and your children will also excel in anything they do in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Well, dear viewers, we thank you for staying tuned. We thank you for following up with the discussion today on choosing a career path. We hope that you have been enlightened by the discussion. As we look from a parent's perspective, there's always a great possibility that a child could end up making a bad decision for their future. So the parents should act as a guide to make sure that their children make good life decisions and not set unrealistic goals for themselves. But they should also be willing to give room, in fact, enough room for the child to make his or her decisions and even mistakes as they pursue their own passion in life, which could be a tough and very rough road. But with discipline and hard work, I'm sure it will end up with fulfillment. We thank you, our dear viewers, for being there with us. Please send in your comments and feedback on any of our social media platforms. Until next time, stay safe and stay blessed. Goodbye.